There's two of them talking.
You have everything of a great conspiracy. How did I get? Yeah, it's kind of a creepy place, you know, because there's no light at all. A lot of experiments out there. Plutonium, nuclear weapon, nuclear destruction. They're just balls of light.
All right, everybody, welcome to Beyond the Strange. I'm your host, Dave Cruz, and we're going with some video tonight. How's it going, everyone? It's gonna be an awesome night tonight. Man, I'm doing this like very last minute, so I apologize for all of my darkness for one thing. And this is like real last minute stuff. So again, I want to thank you all for being here. Hey, Margaret, thanks for joining us. Yes, we are it right now, but it will soon start to trickle in. You can follow us on Twitter at Strange Days 2015. The hashtag is the letter B, the word strange, for hashtag Be Strange. The live chat right now is at YouTube. So we are at Beyond the Strange on YouTube. And as you can see, I am live right now. And like I said, I just all of a sudden had a wild hair. And there's been a lot going on the last few weeks. And everyone's been hearing about the, the Nazca Mummy. A lot of stuff going with parapolitics, but I'm not interested in the politic part right now. This is a paranormal show, and we're going to stick to the paranormal, but we're also going to stick to what we want to say is the truth. And so tonight we have with us Mr. Jeffrey Boyd Jr. of the Independent Research Society, who's on Facebook. He's got numerous web pages. He is a chemical metallurgist, and he has been a speaker at a symposium, ASEAN. Lots of things. I'll have him come on here in a second. Again, you can follow us at Twitter, or you can just go to beyondstrange.com, and we have all the links there. But once again, I want to thank you guys for being here tonight. Anyways, anywho, let me go ahead and bring in Jeffrey Boyd Jr. with us. Jeff?
I'm here.
You can unmute. There you are, bud. I don't see you.
Go. All right. I don't know where the picture went.
The picture.
Let me see here.
There you. Well, there's your picture.
Oh, hang on.
Oh, you know what? You might have did the reverse camera thing.
Every time I hit me, just pops up some picture.
That is you though.
Why is it saying no? It's telling me no camera.
Uh-oh.
Image yet?
No, I just see the picture.
Should I try to call you back real quick?
You can try that. Go for it.
Okay, hang on.
In the meantime, we like I said, we have a lot to talk about. We have the Nazca Mummy. We have we're going to talk about Point Doom, about the Malibu base just off of Point Doom, and Jeffrey has. There you are.
Can you see me? All right.
Yeah, there we are, brother.
All these
It's good to see you.
I updated it, so I had to go. It was all those check this box to, all the things you got to go through when you update it. But for some reason, when I went to video, when we went live, it made me go back and click all those things. And so I just had to give it all, add the permissions back.
Well, here's
I'm ready.
this is Jeffrey Boyd Jr. Yeah, absolutely, man. So,
Got
like I
it?
was telling the audience, yeah, tell them, man, say what's up. But like I was telling the audience, there's just a lot going on right now, and
Yeah, today's been the
hey,
craziest
Deb,
day in the past year, probably. I mean, I'm talking about turn around. My phone says 99 more notifications, and it's all people wanting to know, you know, the truth on things, especially with the mummy. And that is really, I've had just people flooding the research society just to ask what I think about it. And I've been talking to the people at Gaia too. And so, got a little insight there also. It is, but I don't care what the answer is either way, as long as we know what it is. That's what it's about.
the Truth Mafia. That's what we
The
are.
Truth Mafia. Yeah, I formed a room just to show Dave and Joe some pictures and Rusty, but of we got everything from Point Doom to Planet X stuff to Ruby and Mummy, and yeah, all of it. It's been ever since I opened my eyes this morning. It's been just like all day long. I've been having to push people off just to go find out as much as I can on the fly about it. But once you've done it a bunch of times, you start learning the right questions to ask, and depending on which source you're talking to talk to them different ways to figure it out. But hey, it's cool
How
that
hard
people
was
are
it to get
starting
a
to
hold of
do
that
it.
person? By the way,
Uh, I saw him actually talking on the Advanced Archeology Group. Uh, Bruce's group, the one that invited me to speak at the symposium. That's the ASEAN Symposium. And, and under some post, and I just saw where he mentioned something that he was one of the ones that was down there. I thought he said at first that he made the, but then I just started asking some questions just to find out a few things, just simple things, because uh, but he came back to me, he turned around and looked, and he's actually in the research society now too. But just simple questions like, do they test cranial volume? Like they do with the elongated heads, because you can misshape a head, but the cranial volume will never change. And if you have something that has 50% more of the cranial volume than we have, then you got your answer right there without DNA test or anything like that. But just things that I ask on other stuff, where samples were sent to, who they're letting see it, and just simply if they're being out in the open about it. If you discover something and you want uh, hear about it or know about it, you would want, anybody who wants to examine it, any expert to take a look at it. But there's to be a lot of smoke right there, at least for now. You know, dollar signs get in the way of that. Um, some
No-
questions that I put up, and I got kind of strange answers back, but like they can't talk
Well, you
about it
told
right now,
me
things like that.
you when we were talking earlier on the phone before the show, you had told me that there was, like, you were talking about the elongated skull, that there was a number of, I mean, you had like a list that you're going down, what you would check,
Yeah,
what you would check for.
I mean, instantly the first thing before you even X-ray something, you just know certain things about anatomy, like if you put your foot up to your forearm, up to your radius and your ulna, it's approximately that size. But then, relative size of the radius and the ulna to your upper arm. And there's just, I mean, everything is relative to something else, And so things like number of vertebrae, number of ribs, and you see that the skull's misshapen, or, it's not the same shape as ours. So look for things like, I would instantly look for the triangular sutures in the top of your head when you're born. Those elongated skulls, that there's no doubt, because the sutures go from ear to ear, like these headphones. Skulls go straight across the top, and do not have a suture mark where bone grows out as you get bigger. That means it's totally not. Uh, to me, it says it's not human, especially when you have multiple samples that have an ear to ear suture. Like Carl Sagan said, if it's not repeatable, it's probably not reliable. Um, from the photos, some of those things, like counting the ribs, but I'm sitting there watching them on the video, pointing at the vertebrae, counting them, and then pointing at the ribs. Well, they should have an answer because they did count them right there. But that's just information, that information sheet up on it first, but it tells that money might be the motivator more than anything.
That's too bad.
At least that's the most important fact about it, and that's just not the direction I'm going in, and it's I'm trying to write this book, but as I do, when I find out that something, more discoveries, when I find out something's different what I thought it was, and even that's different from the textbook, I'll change it, because I want the correct thing down there. And like in Egypt, different places, Ildi Budai, she took the photos for me. Um, then I realized these are the vaults that they're talking about, that they just discovered, I sent you a picture of a couple of them, 4 black vaults underground, and I'm gonna have those pictures in my book, just to be able to put the mummy in there. But whatever the truth is, if it's not real, it is. It's not good for researchers, you know, like us, for someone to hoax things. But it's the same exact people who did the Roswell slide. So if something's gonna mess up, or something's gonna be purposely done, not messed up, at least let it be the people whose names are not very good right now, are still attached to that. Because they could have looked that they looked at those Roswell slides and realized that it's a picture of people at a museum with mummies in the background, but that they didn't change that after they found out the truth, and that's ill to me. And
That was my first red flag right there, Jeffrey, was because it was tied to some people, namely Jaime Musan. And I don't know Jaime. You know, we've never talked. I've never met him. And I don't want to say that, you know, I don't want to try to make this about character assassination. But the truth is, last year, around the same time, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Was it last year? No, I'm sorry, 2 years ago or something like that. But anyways, yeah, it was it was the Roswell slides, and you know, it turned out to be a moneymaker scheme. I'm sorry, but you know,
You can see where they started. It's like this one. You start seeing them try up events, any scientific data that comes out about it. It's found typically you can go to a university page or to wherever, or you can easily find out who's looking at it, of it, and these standard things that you see in research, and you didn't have that here. It looked exactly like things they got down and they started filming the thing, and they put it out there. They really had a chance to actually examine the thing, but like this, you got it would be so complex that it's a well put together hoax. But that's what I've been telling people. The only way to hoax this, the other side of a piece of glass. Just look in the video. I mean, there's simple things like the expert that they have talking about it first is the University of Mexico in Mexico City, where Jaime Musan's from. So that's his guy, and I just ask him simply, people, that I know, like Klaus Donna, or even, Chase Klotsky, or just anybody that, is a trusted source. And, Klaus was one of those guys who, the skeptic about giant bones, when you're sent specimen after specimen, you got a heel bone from Ecuador, and he examined it and found out that was the truth. Established he doesn't have tenure to lose or whatever, and he just told the truth. He wrote the Hidden History of Humanity, EF version of it, a shortened version of it at the Independent Research Society in the file section, and just all these, that's the book about the art of out of place artifacts, and that's looking at things like with Klaus, and that's the difference. Like I found out, you know, I started asking questions during Ancient Aliens, and I just that's what led to me becoming a metallurgist and find out that something's different, and when I found out answers to the questions in his books, like how they made that shape, that T, the one with the negative T's, like one T
right.
inside of another inside of another.
Mm-hmm.
I made one of those myself. And they said with no tool, how would they do this with no tool marks? It would take 100,000-year-old laser cutters and all this. But I just used molten rock and sand. If you use a sand, I just use a sand stamp to push down into it, and sand crushes in on itself and disappears. And you find other artifacts like that flute, and they call it basalt or lyddite, which is volcanic rock. But I found, they said, how would they make a flute out of that has all these complex turns inside of it? And you know, it's it's because it's not volcanic rock. It's just coming up as that because at some liquefied stone that cooled, and so that's why it gives off the same. you know, all the little same things you look for when you're identifying something. But when he found out that I was answering a lot of those questions, he was very encouraging. He was like my hero. When I
Right.
saw his lecture online artifacts over the next 2 years, I learned things and I was finding answers to those things. And he's been more encouraging than anybody. He and so that's just somebody that's wanting the truth to get out there. And it just gets easier to see once you've gone through so many cases. You start seeing like all the ones that BS have the same thing in common, and all the ones that uh, they have the same things in common. So it starts getting easier to see. But this one is a really smoky one right here, just because of the complexity of the specimen. Take to fake this, which you'd have to computer generate a 3D CAT scan, an MRI of it, and X-rays, and then bring the specimen out. So you would have to start with the data and work backward to the sample. And it's just definitely one of those things that I put it up on the Research Society wall and just said, here's what it is. There's all the Peruvian gods that are depicted all through their culture have 3 fingers, and everywhere. The Sun Gate in I don't know which side of the border it's on in Bolivia, Puma Punku,
Hmm.
and he's holding 2 rods above the door, above the gate, and both of the hands have 3 fingers and an opposable thumb. And you find all these carvings down there, and then you have the big-eyed alien with you can't see how many fingers he has because the Nazca line, he's got his hand up, and that's literally probably the top of the mountain. It Yeah, there seems so much smoke there that you have to take that into consideration as a factor, because it really is. But yeah, I'm just glad that it's the same group, because if it comes out to be a total fraud, cause, I mean, you're gonna have people right now who totally believe this is real 100%, and whenever they 100% find out that it's not, that can run people away from researching it all. Or you have another one of those people, you just grew another person who's just either a debunker, which is just anybody can troll. Go do something yourself first, before you come troll me, or have something to prove. Because if I post something, if I write about something, I guarantee you that is the best I could get at the truth, and there's no agenda behind it other than the truth. And the only
You
agenda
know,
of it.
Jeffrey, do you find that this is a serious trend as far as the lengths that these people are going to just to make a couple of bucks? Or is it something deeper? Is it disinfo that's being leaked into our paranormal community?
I I think it's both. You and I have talked about this one person who I'm pretty empathic, but you can just guess to know that this person's a disinformation agent. Because you have people come up and they tell their stories and they say that it's 80% truth and 20% BS. But you have all these people speak at a certain conference or symposium and then come up and totally tell a story that makes everything before it unbelievable. So I think it's both. I think it's a disinformation to keep things hidden, because the reality I see looking through a telescope, through satellites, through imaging, through all the thousands, millions of things I look at constantly. Um, yeah, it's just but you can see they instantly make money off of it because I guarantee you they've already made a ton of money on just people who don't care and they'll get more signups or whatever. But I if it were my find or anybody that I even know or anything even dealing with usually the government, but usually Chile, they'll they're pretty good about telling when there's lights in the sky and there's a vent or something. The United States is really first when it comes to that. Ever since Operation Mockingbird, it's been like that. We've got all of the, you go from 50,000 media sources and you narrow that down to six that all own part of each other. And then politicians who own a major shareholding percentage in that company, information gets skewed. And I don't even watch the news. I don't watch TV at all. I've got enough information coming past me at all, but
Yeah, I don't watch the news
the
either.
source of data is fouled, and that's what people need to realize when I put anything out there. If it's a foul data source to me, you can't ever use it again. If you found out they lied about one thing, I'll never use that source again. And you do have people that will get lied to by the same source over and over, and that's why it's kind of, I was like, oh, this is going to be cool. At least I have, this is something interesting. And then I look in the background and I see the people involved. That's not who,
Well,
but that's what they looked at. So
Jeff,
I understand that's why they got down there to investigate it. But
yeah,
I would definitely have someone with me that has a name to them, that has a good rep to them.
no, that was a good point that we talked about earlier today as well. But I got to back up, and for the audience, it was brought up that that you are you okay. Let's clarify. Are you saying that it's a hoax, or are you saying or are you just saying you hope it's not a hoax? Because I never heard you actually said that this
Well,
is a hoax.
well, to me, there's not enough information, and the very first thing I asked and wanted to know was, are they being out front and open with this? Because someone was asking me how they fake this. And I said, the only way you fake this is to put it behind a piece of glass and not let anybody, anybody like me or the million people who are great better archaeologists than I am, and anthropologists who look at it, and things like they sent off DNA samples, but we have no idea where they're sent to, and it's nowhere to be seen. And that's usually very easy for me to look up because I do it all the time. I do it every day, just about. And just finding out, because the results of the test totally, you got to totally count what the source is, and it just seems like a really smoky story, and I think it's another one of those Roswell Slide things, but that's just what I'm going on right now. But
Well, you know what? You touched upon
who gets to
the
examine it
three,
next?
right. You touched upon the three fingers, and I brought it up to you, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
They, they look
Well,
really long and alien-ish, but
uh-huh.
you explained how that could be.
Yeah. Well, if you take three fingers, and I use my hand, it's not all beat up from MMA, but if you take three of your fingers and you cut off the pinky, literally, you could take a knife and cut it off to the wrist, and it would look smooth like that. But if you remove the skin from the back of your hand, you have your carpals and metacarpals and your phalanges, but it would look like that. It would look like three fingers going straight down into the wrist, and there not being a palm area at all. And that's exactly what it looks like. And they say there's an extra section, but that's these bones right here, and the outside of it too gives question, because that hand that they came up with 6 months ago, which a lot of people are saying is fake, but I never even looked into that until this came about. It's that would be if I had to give an answer right now, that would be the answer, because even the positioning of it, it's the one thing that you can see more clearly than anything. It's not like its body's wide open and you can clearly see everything, the internal organs and all these things. So it's an elaborate hoax, or it's something that's being mishandled totally. You know, that's what the total answer is right now. It's you got to consider the source, and right now the source is not very good, and the fact they're not being very open with it, they should. If it's about tourism, then they would be very open. They'd be like, everybody in the world come and visit, come investigate it. You know, we want a Klaus Donna, we want a somebody like that, because once that person says that it's true, then you get people like me who I'll take that as fact, or that's his best, you know, summation of the situation. And
We got a question real quick from the YouTube live chat room, and they're asking, weren't there X-rays, and if there were those faked? I mean, I'm thinking you probably could.
They look great.
They look great.
Yeah, they do. But the thing is, if I was gonna make this, I would start off. We carry so much processing power in our hands every day. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
most of the stuff I do on the society or anywhere is just straight off my phone because I'm always going. And from there, I would get, and you have a CAD, computer aided design. You could make something like this and work backward from there. It People do it every moment, every day, doing computer aided design, and that was what I majored in college. The first time was computer science
Mm-hmm.
design, or graphics. I would start there. I would start with that because that's the first thing that the scientists and the people that you need to get to believe it first, to get the general public to believe it. But it is cool to see, I was busy today, and even though I'm not like making anything off of it, I worked my brains out today, all day, all last night.
You work
People
all
coming
the
and
time,
wanting to
dude.
know the truth.
Yeah.
People wanting to know the truth, and that I'm considered one of those sources that they'll come to, and like a scientific Snopes. I don't know how Snopes could even be a fact checker on anything like this. I don't know. And credentials at the bottom, and it's just I mean, just
Ah, man.
what we're talking about now, the big question mark,
Mm-hmm.
that right there itself, and you know, I think it closes a lot of minds and it makes some people money, and that's usually the case I see in a lot of hoaxes. You got a lot of great stories of freaking alien wars and this and that, and great stories, and it also makes you money. And
Right.
to the people who are looking into it, it closes a lot of minds off
Well,
because there's a
I think
lot that we're
also,
discovering right now.
no, there is. There's a lot, and I think also it's all about timing, like I was talking about earlier. When we're talking that, this is, and another thing, it's also taking. I hate to say this, but um, it's no secret that I am not the biggest Gaia supporter, and
Yeah,
it, it's funny how mainstream media does this kind of crap. They put a story out there to take the edge off of another breaking story, especially when that story is
they're gonna
getting
take
a
the
lot of heat.
craziest one.
Exactly, right? And so you get the one, you get the one that that people been beating to death, and then you bring out another one, and then now everyone's talking about that, and nobody's talking about the other story. You know, and so it's just really predictive in my opinion. This is all my opinion, by the way. And
I mean, this looks like, I mean, right now, it just, if one person comes out with a hoax, it looks one way. When a well funded organization and multiple organizations working together hoax something, it can be a lot more elaborate, and it's all about resources there. And, but that's why I take the time, like, I'll sit there, people I didn't know hardly anybody I talked to today, and I'll sit there and take the time. I even made a chat room and just put them all in there so I could answer with that same question to everybody.
right,
But I'm glad people are starting to come to me for the truth. It's slowing down
yeah,
me writing the book, but as truth changes, that in along with the discoveries. But we're, like what we were talking about earlier, we'll probably talk about in a little while, the imaging. I don't know if you've ever heard of
yes,
muon imaging, but lidar, muon, and bluefin sonar. And if you don't know what muon imaging is, we've all broken a bone or had a kid or somebody who did, and you go to the emergency room and they put a plate underneath your leg or whatever, and they take an X-ray. Well, you take those plates and go down to the lowest level of a pyramid or any structure, plates across the floor at the very lowest level. We have cosmic rays that rain down on us, and they penetrate anything. So all night long, the plates lay on the floor at the lowest level, and the cosmic rays are coming in from each different direction, and how fast they hit the plate and at what angle. They take those, and there's what's called a high speed microscope, goes and it reads all those plates, and then it gives you a perfect 3D image, like they just did one of the bent pyramid. It's really cool because it shows, even if there's any void, even if it's a millimeter by a millimeter, it's going to show that. The changes in the pyramid anywhere, it'll show that. So if there's one place that's a wall that's soft or made of a different material, it's going to stand out. And that's literally using the cosmic rays that rain down from, on us all the time. And they just go straight through everything. But when they hit those plates, they make marks. And I forgot what LIDAR stands for. I just said it a second ago. But LIDAR, now we have deep penetrating 15M, I think 15 meters was the best you had that you could see structures underground. And now we have deep penetrating LIDAR from the satellites that can look up to 6 kilometers deep, 4 miles. And I've noticed some things trying to write this book. And, I'm even searching here in the United States because of something George Washington said. He had seen lots of large structures. He had seen all the big cities, and I'm sure he had been in Europe. And he said when he went to the Ohio River Valley, all the largest construction projects he had ever seen in his life, and thought it was barbaric that they were leveling pyramid structures, mounds, and entire city states in the name of clearing the continent of barbarism. And so, just trying to get LIDAR, because I was going to go up to Arkansas, and I think I found some in Mississippi too when I was over there, almost positively. But now I'm starting to get the resources to where I'm going to go back and check it out. But
that's awesome, man.
it's hard to get LIDAR. It's hard to get LIDAR imaging in the United States. And I think
That's
that's
bizarre.
because we have so many secrets,
Mm-hmm.
and the groups that I've been a part of, or that I've been, you know, asked to join lately, that do the LIDAR imaging, it just never gets brought up. But we, I can get a LIDAR scan of the Bosnian pyramids. I can get a LIDAR scan and see the labyrinth in Egypt. That's 3,000 rooms at two different levels. But I can't get a LIDAR image of Arkansas. just that's a fact in itself.
Right.
That stands out. And
Hey, can we just go back for a second? I don't mean to interrupt you, Jeffrey, but
yeah,
can we go back for a second and kind of wrap up the Nazca Mummy?
mummy thing.
Yeah,
Put it back in
and
its
and
hole.
and put it back in its hole. But um, I mean, with that whole thing, you know, it was mentioned to you about the chambers and stuff where they found
Oh yeah.
this specimen. And what I want to know is if you were able, if you wanted to, could you go and use lidar detection to find these chambers?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I think I've sent pictures of it to you. Oh, well, when I was on Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis, that's
Oh
when they
yes, I
brought that
forgot.
one out,
By the
of
way,
course.
everyone, Jeffrey has been on Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis and numerous other radio shows, including mine and Lighting the Void. But
Tons this year.
he's he's also going to be into Paranormal Into the Night with Dino
Latino
tomorrow.
tomorrow. Yeah,
Yeah, so
Dino
that's gonna.
Hewlett,
So you guys don't. Yeah, you guys
Paranormal
don't want
into
to
the
miss
Night.
that. And I'm going to go ahead and give Jeffrey a chance at the end of our conversation to see to know where he's going to be talking next with, or who's going to be talking with next, and all of his information. But yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying not to make puns, but yeah, let's wrap up the mummy and put him back in the
Yeah.
hole.
Oh, you saw that? Like I look at satellite imaging all the time, and so and then I put up a post a while back watching caravans that are coming in and out of Antarctica, and the Russians have been digging through Lake Vostok for the past 10 years and finally broke
Mhm.
through. So they wanted somebody to kind of separate the fact from the fiction because there are stories of the alien wars, of course, that David Wilcox was talking about, uh, contact in the desert, and also the anatomy of the creature, and like you know, that's the way you can start separating fact from fiction. Like when they said it was a magnetic anomaly, and once they broke through the ice, it shifted to the other end of the lake, to the British end of the lake, which I thought that was a treaty against claiming Antarctica, but they're doing it. And the military's all there, and they've got on charity shirt. This is the fallen. The Russians have got a charity there. The Americans have got a charity. There's seems like you got a lot of special forces guys down here, but they whenever it shifted to the other end of the lake, I knew right then it's hemocyanide blood is not like ours. It's copper blood that carries oxygen through the bloodstream. And squid and mollusk like octopus have three hearts. Well, if you have three hearts circulating copper, you've got an electromagnet. But now think about you got the Earth and you have multiple levels of the magnetosphere. Well, it comes out of the top of the Earth, and it all converges. All those layers all go straight into Antarctica, right on top of Lake Vostok. So now you have entire magnetosphere all converging on that point. So I knew that's what the magnetic anomaly was. People were saying, "Oh, that was proof that it was a UFO and all this," but not to be like octopus. It was actually had 14 legs. That's called an isopod,
Mm.
and but it's kind of weird that the movie Arrival came out like right before all this, and but I got imaging before. I talked to Ron Patton, the producer of KXL Ground Zero, and so I got some real quick. I got some lidar images of Antarctica, but those images I was showing you of what's most definitely pyramids on top of and under the ice. The ones I sent you were the ones. Well, I sent you both of them on top and under the ice, but the ones under the ice, 2 to 3 miles of ice. Like when they went through Vostok, they had to go through 12,366 feet of ice, I think. to liquid water. And so those pyramid structures that I sent a LiDAR image of, that's through 3 miles of ice. That's about 2.5 miles of ice that it's through. You see what depth that you're reading at, and it gives you, a cross section, you can see structures under there that even connect to other structures, stairs. All that stuff was true, because I was looking at the imaging. And the but the UFO looking thing, you saw that on the Research Society page, the metal thing
Hmm.
that's inside that crevice. One way that I see if someone is BSing around or not, because I actually know exactly where that's at on the planet, and it's not in Antarctica. So that's a good way to measure it. But yeah, you can see through lots. I mean, pretty much anything, and the lidar will even tell you whether it's wood or gold or whatever bone. It can see those things depending on what filter, whatever you have on. And so there's even gravitational detectors, ion detectors, gamma rays. I mean, you name it, we've got the technology for, but people do not try to use it. And so it's really easy to go find out these things firsthand, but people don't
Why
even know
aren't
what
why
to look
aren't more
for
people
first.
doing this? Why aren't more people doing this, Jeff? Is it because they're lazy,
A lot of
or
people, I think a lot of it's programmed in because
it's yeah,
where
that's what's happening.
anything found is automatically top secret unless deemed otherwise.
Right.
It's like you have to go through this process of declassification. But look at this. Look at the wall. I posted up the CREST CIA database on every file the CIA had, and even their files they have NSA, document 41472 that campaign cipher to the ET messages, mathematical cipher for these 29 messages received. So you see what truth we're told, what the truth actually is. So those things are confirmation. But if you need disclosure, well, you're asking for disclosure from a person who just lied to you totally,
Right.
And but I think they just don't think that they have access to those types of things. But the private satellites up, different countries. I mean, Hyundai's got a satellite. There's tens of thousands of satellites in space now, and that's what
It's
tons
interesting
of
that you
money
don't
goes
hear about all
into.
these
But
satellites.
the only people looking at it's government. Yeah, there's almost not even there's not even passwords on any of these things.
Mm-hmm.
But you just have to know what to look for, and satellite dashboard up on the wall. Because when you go on there, it's like you can look at anything. I mean, it's crazy, and it's a .gov site too, so it's a government site, and all of them are connected to that from there. And yeah, it's really easy to get to. And the solar wind, they have space weather. Yeah, just look up space weather, uh, and that'll bring up the satellites. It tracks all the asteroids that are incoming, outgoing, everything, the position of everything. And information's just gotten much easier to get to, and people just have to learn how to do it. But it's pretty awesome that there's so many people trying to learn how to now. But you'd be surprised at see more people trying to learn how to do it. But I see how few people, like when I put up the CREST CIA database in there, like everything back, even document R277 is the history of anomalies on the moon for the seen on the moon for the past 500 years.
Mm.
I'm in Europe. I'm in the Belgium wave, the Norway. it has all that stuff, and people will not look at it. It's just, I don't know. They think I hacked something, but no, it's declassified. But the way they did it, Trump got elected. They released it between the election and the inauguration, and nobody pays attention. Everybody's too busy keeping up with the Kardashians.
That's what they
So,
do. That's what they do, man.
yeah,
Hey, I tell
truth's
you
out
what,
there if you want to look for it. It's easy to get to too.
it is. Why don't we do this? Why don't we take a quick break? And I've been told by numerous people. No, I'm just kidding. Um, we should take a quick break, and when we come back, we will get into. If you can't tell, I'm fidgeting. I'm not fidgeting, really. It's just I'm trying to get these images up for our next segment that we're going to do.
Yeah.
And the point doom and some of the other stuff that you sent me that
Wow stuff.
and if they want to be part of the Truth Mafia or if they want to be part of
But did you see how fast when you asked me about it, did you see how fast that I got an image of it and even got to look inside? And what was
that's
it,
exactly what I want to talk about is
5 minutes,
this was during Joseph Roop's show, Lighting the Void. I mean, it was that quick that you were able to bring something up and say, hey, is this what you're talking about? And you even expanded on it. You made it better. and it's
it
like
kind of shocked me because
this is like
I just haven't looked at it. I just took it like everybody else does, that they've already looked at it so much. There's nothing to see there, and I can see
but there is
what
more
it
to see.
is. Oh yeah, and Google Earth it's edited in a major way, but even their images sometimes they overlook things that, but it's just data processing. You got to learn how to process it in your own brain too, but they want us to turn it off and not ask any questions.
Yeah, that's true. All right, I'll tell you what. Why don't we go ahead and just Oops, sorry about that. That was loud. Didn't mean that to happen. Didn't mean to blow your ears out. All right, everyone. You are listening and watching Beyond the Strange on YouTube Live right now. We are with Jeffrey Boyd Jr. He is the head of Independent Research Society. That's what I'm talking about. We'll be back. Don't go away. All right, everyone. Welcome back. This is Beyond the Strange. I'm your host, Dave Cruz, and we are talking with Jeffrey Boyd Jr. He is the head of Independent Research Society on Facebook, numerous other groups. The man just keeps going all day. And like he was saying earlier, man, he had a hell of a day today. um, but again, I just want to say thanks again, Jeffrey, for being on the show today.
Thank you, man. I always enjoy it.
It's always cool, man. It's always fun.
I was glad to talk to everybody today. So if anybody wants to message me, I'm very accessible. And you can see all these images yourself. I can show them to you. And that's what it is. We're getting it out there. Hopefully, this is changing some things too. Maybe we'll change some expectations. But we're definitely finding, I think, everywhere from archaeology to astronomy, we're making discoveries. And it's we can do it. Man, we don't need anybody else to tell us. We can do it ourselves.
So speaking of those images, I'm going to try to do this right now, where we can share some of these images. So, Jeff, can you see that picture, by the way?
Yeah. The 24 vaults that they found underneath, it was 12 miles south of Giza. They found 24 black vaults, but again, like the pyramids, there's no bodies in them. And they're heavy duty, thick covers on them. And so I don't know, just like the pyramids, I'm thinking either it has something to do with power, or it was literally a vault to hold treasures. And that'd be a great way to lock something down, put something with a really lid on it. But that's what it looks like. But that was just discovered here not long ago. These are some pictures that are going to be in my book. Ildi Budai took these just not long ago. But yeah, lots of these aren't seen anywhere. I found one site that had a picture of one of the vaults. And but I've got she sent back some amazing stuff, like like where ISIS was buried, just things that prove that our history is wrong. And that's what we're trying to do. And we're rewriting it. And more and more people are believing it every day, but also more people are turning their brains off too. So that's the duality of man.
I gotta apologize for that stupid ding that we keep hearing.
Oh, I can't hear.
Okay, I'm glad. I just want to make sure no one else can hear it.
You getting messages?
Yes, it's probably because of the images we're showing right now. But
probably.
Okay, so we got the image, and there I locked it in so we can scroll through these, so you can see these, right? You can see these pretty good. Okay, good. All right, so let's go on to the next image. This looks like a coffin or something.
It is.
What is this?
But that material is very dense, very thick. Everything smooth cut. Is just total precision, and there's not any you don't have the cartouches on there. You don't have any hieroglyphs or anything on the walls. That's why that's what I'm writing about too. That you get two totally different ages full of evidence to prove that. And now I think years of civilizations lost that we've never even heard of. And I've got tons of proof that the Egyptians now, and since Zahi Hawass left, you could see the book being opened on Egypt. And the Inca, the Maya, all of them, the Aztec, Toltec, they were in North America first. When they went into South America, they found these structures already there. Just like in Egypt, when the current day Egyptians came there and found it, because the first thing they write about is the golden age of man. There was a 25,000-year-old civilization before them, but you can't have a golden age of man with no man. That's the very first thing they talk about, and so we just got to believe the ancients, because one place after another we're finding out that these aren't myths. And you see a lot of situations where it's us, current day humans telling the story of other creatures, I mean, hundreds of places where there's interaction, there's, human observation of interaction between two species, neither one of are human. I mean, everything from the Mahabharata all the way to Angkor Wat in Cambodia, you see a battle between two things that are not us, and high technology. And that there's lots of evidence that we've never been on this planet alone. And go look at the Vandenberg missile test. We're still not alone.
Right.
Or then there's somebody like, there's one of us that has some technology where they can fly at Mach 26 or something and shoot down our fastest ever built, that have anti-missile defense system, which Vandenberg missile test. Look that up on YouTube, and that's just a smoking gun right there. You have 38 nations or something watching our best technology. It was our show of power, something up, and this thing comes in, hits it, flies around it, and fall out. But just all this proof showing the same things. The ages of things are, it's getting older. I mean, everybody who is researching and is not just regurgitating or stuck in a classroom are seeing the same things. You have the pyramids that nobody even talks about it in schools. You have pyramids in Indonesia that 6,000 years old, and like South America, you have it a lot. The Inca and everybody, archaeology tries to tell them, no, you did build this. And they say, no, this was here when we migrated down here back during this age. All the evidence is showing me that we're looking at least two different times where there's a global civilization now, and at least then during this time period, because all those, even the Bosnian pyramid, all of them line up to this like 26,000 year date. You see that woven through, and even Göbekli Tepe, that has a 12,000 year mark, but that only tells you it was buried 12,000 years ago. You have no idea when it was created. But being a stone monument like that, it was probably around for 10,000 years before that. And that's what the ancients were telling us, in all these stories. But in the evidence that you and I have been looking at this week, during the Paleocene, the water level was 400 feet lower. But when you have structures down at 2,000 feet, do the math on that. We don't know, just like with carbon 14, we don't know. There was no consistent level of water rising, but over time, water has been rising. So that puts these other structures at a much further back date, if these are man made structures. And everything I see about it is. And you notice with the better our technology gets, like these vaults, we're finding all these things because the people who are funded. That's why I'm trying. One of the points of the Independent Research Society is eventually being an entity to get the funding to the independent researchers, ones who are answering 100 times the questions than the the paid archaeologists and the university guys are. But when you have professors that write their own books and they're selling them for 150, $200 a piece, of 100, 150 people, 100,000 reasons a semester to not make any discoveries and other things like that. But that's another one of those places where, money device, and it Truth too. We've already talked about that today, and that being the driving force behind so many things. Just try to get things out there for what they are, and I'm trying to figure out what history is for myself just to know. But all the information and like these things we're looking at now, these things were not made by people with stone chisels and a little round rock banging it around. Take one pyramid, you get 2.78 million stones that are 50 tons a piece. If you just used one copper chisel, and that's a very bare minimum to use on a 50-ton stone, if you only
Mm-hmm.
used a 1 pound chisel, well, you should have at least 2.78 million pounds of copper pyramid, and it's not there. And yeah, the Point Doom stuff that we showed. This is I don't think I have this one printed out, but that's Sycamore Knoll. You can see where the Navy base is in relation to that. Yeah, I don't know how
Oh,
to
by the way, I haven't actually shared this image yet, but I'm about to right now. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on the screen, and you can. Is this okay to share?
This is just a view of the general area, and I think I sent you the one that's the actual image. Um, but you can see over on the right side, shaped little bay is that is where the naval base is, and um, in relation to where the Point Doom structure is in Malibu, stopping someone from scuba diving. I used to scuba dive all the time, like and especially when I was younger. But this entire area, this is off the coast of Malibu. Why would anyone be stopped from fishing, from scuba diving, from doing anything? There's just no reason why they shouldn't they would get arrested for going and searching this area. But yeah, Dave asked me about it, and I went and got images. But the newest thing we have really is bluefin sonar. We were talking about the images, how well or like lidar works on imaging the ground floor of the sea floor, and what they're using is bluefin sonar. They call it that in tuna. They drag it behind just like they did the old ones. But yeah, I was looking for that other one. Okay. But they drag it, and now we have good enough imaging to where we're getting really high def looks at the ocean floor, at anything that's an anomaly. And um, I just went on there and saw something. So when you see a dark place, I just flipped it over into the negative and added looked at it in a couple of different color spectrums, and some things started standing out. You've got a completely. I've got the Google image in my hand. I think I sent it to you. See that it's
Uh, let's. Okay.
they're
So which one
slanted.
we're
The
talking about?
the satellite image like that.
Oh, that real dark blue one.
Yeah, the one looks like it was taken like off the coast from a satellite. You can see all the way back to
This
the
one.
mountain. Right? Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
See
All right, guys.
how it's slanted.
We're going to show you this image, and Jeffrey's going to talk through it. So here is
They
where the
yeah, this is one of the images I actually used. Well, yeah, I went to the library and got that image just to kind of get an overview of the entire thing, to get a picture of the top of it and scale and all that. But if you look in the back at the cities, just between a couple of those cities, between Camarillo and like Moon Park, that's like 10 kilometers length of this roof area in the middle. we're talking about like 3 kilometers long, probably something like that. So you could get an idea of how tall the entrances of the doors would be and all that. See in the images where it looks where they're slanted, and over here on the right where it looks like water erosion, but you can clearly tell where this used to be the coastline, and you can see water erosion. And so they kind of just try, all they've got to do is skew it a little tiny bit. Over on the left side, Malibu Canyon, it looks like that's what looks like a river, and it runs up, and where it touches the coast right there, it's to the left where it says Point Mugu State Park. Way over, you can see that looks like a river runs straight up to the coast.
Right here.
Malibu Canyon. Yeah, that's where the naval base is. Right at the end of Malibu Canyon. So it would be a perfect place for the Navy to be able to use as a massive structure. And I started seeing anomaly, and I've got the actual first picture I showed you, and I started noticing something in the background in each photo, and then I went to other sources and got their picture and started noticing that the same little images in the background, and then I realized these are pole structures lined up, and uh, I showed Dave another image too, not sure if we have it here, but you can see the poles that go deeper back into the thing, which is what it would take to support a roof of that size. I'd love to see what it looks like without all the sand material on there. But see, other people have either gave up on it or they went out there. I don't know what you told me. The story might have been that they jail or something. But just look where this is. It's it's right off of the point of a state park. This would be the area where people would go scuba diving and things like that. So unless it's been closed off, which I don't understand why anything like this would be.
Okay,
Unless
so I'm getting
deemed
comments
otherwise.
from the chat. Everyone's seeing the images just fine, and we showed where the canyon is. We showed where Point Doom is, and of course the which what we call the M-dub, which is the Malibu Deep Underwater Base. But
Yeah, and just remember, this is the image that they put on Google Earth. So that's exactly what this is right here.
so
See what we're
everyone's
talking
at the
about
edge of their seat.
when you go to the next
Yeah,
image, you'll see what we're talking about.
yeah, everyone's on the edge of their seat. So get ready, everyone. Remember, you saw it on Beyond the
Hey, it floored
Strange
me, and
first
I didn't.
with Jeffrey Boyd Jr. He has discovered these images. So get ready, because here they are. And
People been waiting a long time to see
bam.
the inside of this thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
you can see what looks like. I kept seeing these two dark anomalies in the middle. And also, if you'll notice on Google Earth, it looks like each one of those is a single column. Well, you can look right here and tell that it's not single columns. They're double columns with a space in the middle, double columns with a space in the middle, double columns with a space in the middle. And it's very symmetrical. They're just as far apart as it's 2 by 2 by 2. And the ones on this side are just as far apart as the ones on this side. But then I started looking at this shape in the middle, and I was like, it looks like a person standing there. And then I was like, this looks like a shadow on the left, and it kind of looks like some type of doorway or something on the right. But you can see the. But then I was like, look, the one on the left looks like it's a statue or something. But then I realized if you look at the front 2 columns and the one on the right, now look behind it. That's another set of columns. And then when you look behind it, it's faint, but you can see two lines, two more columns, two, two, two. So this is architecture, and you can see it very clearly on the front. Uh, and I'm looking at an image that's a little more zoomed in than that, but it goes two by two by two, and you can see the space. The green line in the middle is the space in between the poles, and you can clearly see on Google that that's not what they have. And you can see we've got another image too that shows you they that
This is the same image.
you can see further into it. Um, that's the one I'm looking at now. You can see, and I've got it more zoomed in. But this, oh, not that one. The one the one we're just looking at. You can see where the columns go deeper into it on both sides. You can see rows of columns that go further in there. And
You know what? We'll go with your pictures.
It took me a second to focus on what it was, but the size of this thing, the amount of space just to that next post. I mean, we're looking far into the thing. And so, I'm going to watch it over time and go back and get another image later. And you never know, we might catch naval activity in there. I don't want to get myself in any trouble, but I'm just
we don't want you to get in trouble.
That's out there.
Yeah, we don't want to get you in trouble, Jeffrey.
The imaging that's out there, and you see that with that's not the same thing that you were looking at on Google Earth, but that's done to the moon, it's done to Mars, it's done to all of them.
Now, the hard copies that you have that you were going to, show us on the camera, are they the same ones as these?
Yeah. I think I have one that you don't, but it's just zoomed in more of the middle area.
Oh wow!
Trying to tell what that shape was.
Right.
That the ones on the right row of columns going back into it. That's why I'm thinking that might be a statue right there, because the more I looked at it and flipping back and forth between the filters, it looks like a person standing there. But if it is a statue, that would be something that would be a monument type thing. It would be huge, 100 feet tall, maybe.
Dan in the chat room wants
to do a measurement of how big this thing is.
Dan in the chat room wants to know how long ago these images were taken, and I can tell Dan right now that these were taken not even 2 weeks ago. And again, I had asked Jeffrey off of I had called into Lighting the Void, a show that Joseph Roop does, and he had
that's right. Jeffrey I was on the other show.
Yeah. You were on Joe's show, and I had called in and I was asking you if you had heard anything about the M-dub, and you, for not even 5 minutes, came back and said, "Oh, check this out." Boom. And it's been 3 years, over 3 years, that these, megalithic, exactly, James. That's exactly what we're talking about. This is megalithic. This could be.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and let Jeffrey say it. Go ahead, Jeffrey. What is it that we think that this could be?
And megalithic is definitely the word. And if you look at the shape of the images we saw before, you could clearly see that would have been the old shoreline. Just like we have a continental shelf all the way around all the continents. Then you have to start measuring how much time, because during the Paleocene, which was just 12,000 years ago, 400 feet level, but this is at 2,000 feet. So we're talking about like age of Taurus, like 100,000 years ago, maybe. Then I started thinking about it. During the time that North America was covered in ice, would have been this low. that was just before the Paleocene. So up all the ice that was on North America and Canada, that covered Canada, ran off to, you can see the water erosion. This would have been above water during then. That's approximately, we have the ice age, and then we have this just short history that we've been here. To That's why it blows me away when I look at the evidence out there, and the more I learn to what the archaeologists who are at universities say, and how false that so much of it is, and they just go with it. And then I say, person has tried, and you saw how quick I was getting these images. It didn't take any time, and that's what kind of blew me away, how much false information is put out there. And sometimes it just takes one person to look, because I couldn't believe how easy it was for me to pull up other images. But there is search. I mean, it's just, especially with the internet, to look for what tools to even look for, to use to even get to that point. On the one that shows, they're actually, I believe it's two different structures, almost like when you're at a football game or something, and you go under, under the seats into the other area to, that's what it looks like. You have those rows of support columns, but they're straight up and down. And you can see, starting off on this one over on the left, the pair of columns, and then you have that width in between, starting from that second post. Well, it's actually the third and fourth post, but it's one post and then two, and then one, and then two, and then one. I mean, it's architecture. And on the right, you have vertical posts that are spread out by the same exact length, and you can see them. You can see the depth in it. So the other one just showed that there's no depth, that these poles run straight up next to this other one. And this image shows the poles going back. You can see them getting smaller as they go back. And you can actually see some of the poles looking underneath the edge of the roof of this thing. And so it lets, you can tell the difference between the two photos, that it's the one looks like it's taken from a satellite, just makes it look like water runoff or something. But you can clearly see on this one that these are round posts. It kind of even has that reverse tray ceiling effect to it. And how vertical, even in the front structure, how straight up and down it is. And even on this image, it's because light's getting back there. You can see the second column that I was talking about on the right. You can barely see it, and it's light. And on the left side, I kept seeing that something a little bit lighter. And then when I flipped it into the negative, you could clearly see. But that's what I'm still looking at. I'm like, it looks like it's shaped like a person, but but I haven't had a chance to sit here and analyze these things. I've been so busy. But I'm sitting here looking at it at first and going, these are rows of columns that are going back. So that's either the second column depth, you have more columns. Nature's not going to have support structures further back, same distance apart as these front two are from each other.
What civilization do you think left this? If it was
an unknown, I think a civilization X, a root civilization.
This could be amazing. This could be, this could be a breakthrough discovery.
The oldest thing on the planet. It would be the oldest thing on the planet that we found.
And nobody else is talking about it but you and me. It just kills me, dude. It kills me. That there's all these other shows, man. It's all these.
It has been easy to find some answers, and then I realized, is it because nobody looks, and that has to be the only reason. And like we were talking
or
about the CIA
they're
database.
being
I can
told
post
not
it
to
up there.
look.
Yeah,
That's another thing.
nobody's telling. Nope. The only thing I hear from people telling me is be careful, be careful. And I'm like, nobody's even looking. You know, I'm digging through the CIA database, and they declassified it because of a FOIA request that went through, and now it's declassified. And now that everything that the CIA had, even what they have on the NSA with, you know, ciphers and all that stuff, different messages got over time. With such, you know, you got to think about the scope of that. That means SETI is totally bullcrap. It means they absolutely 100% know, and they still use the Allen array every day and act like, oh, hey, we got a signal that might have been something. And then they come out, we got an update. It was nothing. I mean, it's like, you know, they're just jumbling your brain. It's like that they're trying to act like, you know, I guess what they, you know, we've got to put up a front of realism here. So we got to at least act like we're finding something every now and then. And uh, there's no way those guys have that type of funding and that type of equipment and aren't finding anything. And I have heard signals myself just by listening to the stuff that they have. And you can go through the CIA database and other places of they've let go, and you can hear intelligence in some of these things, like the 29 messages they went through. I think the first one was a repeating message cipher down, or anybody who pointed at us or not. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a mathematical cipher, and I went and started working the cipher out. The mathematical cipher, part of it is a grid. You have an X, Y, and Z axis. You know, like you have imagine a three. You have graph paper, but now make it 3D as letters, and as you work through it, you realize it's telling you, you know, like you have cells on Excel. It's literally telling you not the coordinates yet. It was telling you the grid points, the grid, and coordinates in there, like where we're from or whatever. Here's in, and here's, you know, and the next information that came from that would be point inside that three-dimensional grid. But I see this on Mars. I was in the Mars Research Society and the Lunar Anomaly Research Society, and over again, the stuff that we have, you can go right onto Google with the same coordinates, and you'll find totally flat and no color to it at all. Image. We've got this massive building-looking thing with a door on the side. This guy who's a member of the Research Society, and he's from Russia, and it looks. I don't know if you've ever been to Four Corners, New Mexico, but it looks like one of those massive plateaus that stick out of the big mesas that stick out of the ground. It's just very clearly a door, and then like looks like a little road leading up to it. I'll try to find that image for you, but that's just a repeating thing over and over again. But people are starting to figure it out. You saw how fast I was shocked at how fast I
That
found
was
the
quick.
when I flipped it over to the other one,
Yeah.
I instantly saw those columns going back, and we can see what one, two, three. You can clearly see at least 4 rows of columns going back. Those
Mm-hmm.
pillars, the third row of pillars, you can see three at one, two, three, and yeah, I can see four, the top of the fourth post back. So think of the size of the top of that thing. So we're seeing a good distance back into there, because look how far apart the are in the middle. Even the distance between small pillars, the ones that are closer together on both sides, in the middle, if they're even as far apart as the ones on the left or right, we're looking a good distance back into there. But you can see that first column, or not the first column, the second column, you can barely see a thin green line that goes through the middle, showing you that's also a pair of columns going back. Um, that's what I'm writing. I haven't decided on the name of the book yet. Things are changing. I'm like, it's a major contrast between finding, because I said what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go at all the megalithic sites, all the globe, and I'm going to go by what the evidence tells me, I've ever learned, and just go by that. I couldn't believe how fast I just like Monagich wanted me to come to Bosnia because I did a show on Aquarian, the pyramid power plants, and I think that Tesla was rebuilding that technology with those towers that, just drill a ground wire deep into the ground, 60 feet in the ground. You have a 75-foot tower, the pyramid technology, and but you have the same points you find at all the pyramids that were dated back then. Just look at the newer the pyramid, the crappier it looks. The newest ones look almost like mud.
Yeah.
There's things like the famine stela. The famine stela was written by Imhotep before he was a pharaoh, and they call him the architect pharaoh or the builder pharaoh. But the famine stela was written by him before he was pharaoh, and the pyramids were already there. And then you have the Sumerian tablets that talk about the pyramid wars without pyramids. But that's what they're famous for, is wait till grandpa dies and then we're going to go chisel his name out now. And then he dies, and then his son does that to him. And history gets younger and younger and younger, and the information gets more skewed. But I think that's what we're looking at here. I mean, it's all the same subject, looking at what the truth is compared to what is accepted as the truth.
You know what? And
it's crazy to think that we've come this far, and we're where we are, and we're the only thing it's ever been, and we all started from a single cell, out into the different races, and are as high tech as we are now.
It's ludicrous.
When you look back, at the truth, it looks more like Star Wars. Humans were one type of thing amongst. That's the same repeating story on every continent.
Hey Jeff, I want to do this. I heard you mention Sumerian and ancient text, and I want to segue into our last topic. And we won't spend too much time on it because I know you've had a hell of a day. You look pretty tired, my friend, my brother. But
I didn't get much sleep.
Yeah, man, it's all good. But
I'm doing. We were talking.
You do it very well. You are amazing, my friend. I mean that again, nobody else is talking about it but Beyond the Strange, Jeffrey Boyd Jr. and Dave Cruz. So this isn't the end.
I'll let it go on your show, and where to go from there. I can't control anything after that.
Well, I also want to make sure that this research it's the Truth Mafia, and nobody's doing it. I mean, nobody wants to really tell the truth, but they're getting paid way too much money for things like this Nazca Mummy and Roswell Slides and all this other hippity dippity bull crap. And I really think
that's what the
people
Research Society is. We're trying to get the funding to the people,
right. And I wanted that. Yeah. And before, like I said, before we get into the last topic, I really believe that, for what you do, Jeffrey, you should get some funding for more research so that we can have more images like what you just did. More information that's out there I know you're going to have a Patreon site. And again, we'll give the audience that information out at the end. But the last thing I want to get to,
to help me, I could use it.
hey man, that's what I'm trying to say is, if anyone deserves it, you deserve it, bro. So that's where I'm going with that. But the last thing I want to talk about, and we talked about it too, and it's a topic that always scares the crap out of me, is Planet X. Earlier this year, I had a gentleman by the name of David Mead who takes a biblical look at it, but a lot of the research that he's done is frightening, because it matches up with your research and a lot of other people's research. But I think there's a lot more credibility to this than a lot of people give it, and I just want I want to get your take on it, Jeff.
Well, it's exactly what we're talking about with the mummy. They consider all of us sheep, and they think we're gonna freak out if we hear about anything, even if it's alien life. But watch the sun all the time, and I've documented so many different types of life that I'll see multiple times around the sun, and even the sun's not what we were told it was. I mean, not even close. In 7, I noticed a piece of cutout sky, and I was, back then I was in the other research group, the Mars Research Group, Lunar Anomaly Research Society, and a piece of cutout sky. And actually, I think that's what got me in the group. I started looking for other people, but I found a cutout piece of sky on Google Earth and Google Sky. No, is why it's cut out and why it's not there. Google's pretty complete with their images. They even take the time to omit things, because I've seen a million times where they flying and then you look whenever the Google update comes out, it's gone. And 2007, we found that cutout section of sky just up with the sky, and you see all the lights, and so it's not black. Well, it is just a cut out. I don't know if I sent you the picture or not. It's
I
just
don't
a
remember
straight
seeing it.
cutout piece.
I'm getting it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a cutout piece of sky. And first thing I did was went to the Caltech. I went to the Caltech telescope at their and looked at it, and like you could see a red dot look like Venus. Yeah, it's just showing me what images I sent you earlier. Just go to jeffboydjr.blogspot.com. See my tracking, like from 2007 all the way up until 2012, when I guess they gave up that ghost. They 1,000 times the size, at least. That's the last time I checked. 20,000 times the size I first saw it. When I first saw it, it was red, looked like a big Venus. You have all these little out section of sky. Uh, there you go. And section of sky, and it's a little solar system, and it has planets around it that have moons around it, and it is what it is. I had to know what was behind that spot. First, my site was even pulled down. I wasn't really interacting with anybody else on the research level back then, and it the image comes through.
Is this the right? This is the right site, right?
Yeah. My Hangout's back on. I just sent
Yeah.
you a picture over. But if you look at jeffboyjr.blogspot.com, it'll show you my tracking. Yeah, there we go. See the red dot, and now it's this massive. You see the wings coming out, but that's what you heard in all the Sumerian tablets. And even the symbol the Egyptians always used was the winged planet, the winged disc. And now we've got this massive winged disc fireball, but actually it's a brown dwarf is what it is, and it has red wings coming off of it. And what that is iron oxide being blown out into space. But if you look around it, and so the center object in red is the star. So if that were to come into our solar system, if it is on a long elliptical orbit, group, which it still is, I guess. But the Apollo, I mean, the destroyer, because if you see all those little specks too, some of them are stars, but some of them are captured comets and meteors and just junk that it it collects along the way. It being in that long elliptical orbit, it'll catch things from time to time, just like the Earth does. Uh, we have what you say satellites. They're asteroids that we catch that'll be in orbit for a while, and um, it it would just be like it's not like something like the moon's gonna come pass by us. This thing is, I don't know. I mean, 10 times the size of the Earth, and then you have other Earth-like planets that are next to it, and they have little moons next to it. I've looked at the new images. So you have Earth-like, Earth-sized planets, but with little moons. And then I start counting them, and exactly what the Sumerian tablets said is exactly what this thing is. And I never try to make anything fit, just whatever the truth is. But then, that's why I said this is all the same thing. It's this is verification that what was left can be believed eh, more than it could be before. It's verification of one of the facts. That's what I always tell people is when you get any story, pick a fact in that story and now try to verify that in a different way. If there's a report on a ship that's on fire out in the ocean, well, you can get, if you get the coordinates of that, or just type in satellite image South China Sea or wherever it is, thing out there, well, I'm finding over and over again there's so many stories out there that aren't based on anything to jumble the facts up, but things like this, and at, at Point Doom would be the approximate age of, when you listen to the story, the Anunnaki and the ancient Sumerians, time that they got here was, like 100,000 years before introduced into the story. And so this would be verification of that fact. The carvings of the Sumerian gods and like and Inky, and they've got Iron 9 planets, and you even see the shape of them and different on them. Let you know. I mean, they knew what was out in space, and now even at I found this at Gobekli Tepe. They, before. Now there's, I think there's like 10% now they've unburied Gobekli Tepe, so we barely scratched the surface there. And there was an image that other places in the world, the vulture is a symbol of death or destruction, or something along those lines. And it's got a planet and or I think that's pointing to an event, or that's what another researcher had written on. And you go look at those and things start lining up. But when you start getting facts from other out in space that verify planets we had, and then the story of Nibiru, and you have to ask yourself, if you ask yourself how much of it can believe, you just ask how much of it can be verified. A lot of verification in this winged planet, because what they said was coming back around happens to be the only thing in our sky that is a winged disc. That that's too abstract. That's too much to be. There's no coincidence. And I don't think it is. And it's at least knowledge that they say this thing comes in within our orbit, but it passes out by Pluto or somewhere outside the Kuiper Belt. This is still knowledge that they knew about it. So
Right.
we don't know where it'll come in between, but they say the planets aren't in the same order they are as they were before. But we gotta just hope that's not true. But Mars does show signs that it could have been closer in and had an atmosphere and had life on it, because lots of proof of life or past life
A lot
on
of
Mars. And
a lot of strange
the
stuff going
time
on.
period could have been during this time 100,000 years ago. One of the
Hmm.
first things I wrote was called the Age of Taurus, and that was during this age. Approximately when I think Point Doom, if it was something that was on a coast. I mean, I just imagine you're pulling up in a ship out in the ocean, pulling up to the coast, and you see this megalithic structure like this, something kilometers long, huge, bigger than anything we all on the planet right now. And it's definitely one of those great wall type structures. It's huge. If other facts start lining up with it, and more of it, I think, needs to be believed. They weren't. I don't think they were putting that much effort into leaving us fairy tales. I don't think they really cared about our entertainment. And Karen at Aquarian, she always talks about, Jeff always sees an integration, but that has to be what it is.
Right.
To look at it as they were leaving us archaeological information, and that's what everything is archaeology. And
Well, Jeffrey, I wanted
that's
to.
not what would have been left.
Yeah, man. I know you again that this has been a long, long day. It's been a long day for me too, but
Extremely.
I felt that we really needed to do this tonight, and I know the audience is appreciating everything. James and Dan and Margaret and Deb and everyone that's been in chat. They've been at the edge of their seat waiting for the
I'm
images.
glad
And
everybody could join us tonight. That we moved it up to tonight. But you know me, if you, I said let's do it. Let's roll.
you were down, so it was all good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think when we were
And
talking,
tomorrow,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah. Now I can hear you. No, there for a second, your voice robot thing, sounding thing,
Oh yeah, it's doing that. It's probably them that's
a little
doing it.
lag or something.
Yeah. But go ahead. I'm sorry. You want to finish your thought?
Oh no, that's it. I mean, it just, uh, I'm glad people want to hear what we have to say, and people look. The only lens of agenda that I have at all is truth. I don't which way any story goes, as long as the truth is what it is. I do not care if the mummy is real. I do not care if it's fake. This is the only thing out there. I've seen since the Research Society. It's like gaining momentum, but I always kept the numbers low because it's easy to just throw together a page and have 80,000 people be your members. Got
Mm-hmm.
Klaus Donna and Larry Scranton and Walter Bosley, and we got the truth seekers and the truth speakers, the people I looked up to that could teach me, and now it's just become this asset. Now if I want to if I need something in Sri Lanka, I've got somebody there. If I'm going to Indonesia, I've got somebody there, and it has become this worldwide thing. I made sure that it was a core thing, and I said no memes on the wall, no political posts, leave that out, and religion, just leave it out, because this is about finding out the truth. Uh, But you know, it cut out 90% of the people that were posting at that time memes. And if you're going to put up a meme, it has to be something you made. But if you're going to put up a share, at least say something about the share, because you might be writing over somebody's paper on morphic genetics or somebody's artwork or that they did. So make sure it's something important enough to put over the top, of somebody else's radio show or something else like that. But it's become my family. I've got that's the people who listen to me, and are I'm starting to gain people and gain family, just like you and Joe and everybody, because
Truth Mafia.
even that with my family here, they this that they say they've never heard one show I've ever been on or seen one show or anything I've ever been on. I've done what, like 30 shows this year, and it's
Dude, my
but
mom and my
truth is the
brother
truth.
haven't heard one of my shows yet. So,
I understand that, but
this is
hey,
what we do, and the people who listen are the ones to gain, and the ones who don't listen are their ass out. That's all I gotta say. But you know
I'm
what,
doing
brother?
what I
Why don't
love,
we?
and now I'm writing a book, even though it's hard because so many things are coming up. But I do take the time to stop, and I'll sit there and explain. People come to me and ask, explain this or anything, and I take the time out to do that. But now I'm writing this book, and hopefully that'll allow me to. Because I'm doing just this, so it's been hard to stick just to this and to writing when it'd be easier to quit and go to a 9 to 5, and it's just this is the direction. But I have people that, I mean, Klaus Donald's like my hero. With when he came out with the Hidden History of Humanity, I was like, this is the
Mhm.
best thing I've ever seen. And he's like proved that was a 7 meter race, that the Smithsonian and everywhere have taken out and used the giant bones and put them on a ship and used it for target practice on old World War II ships, and they've hidden so much complete races we know of that they have wiped from existence. So we have someone else choosing what our existence is, and it's that's not reality. You have somebody else who's putting up a
That's a
show
whole.
for us.
I was gonna say that's a
Yeah,
whole
I'm just
different
not down with
show.
that. I'm like, yeah. Well, I mean, that's what the whole thing is. I want to know what the truth is, but right now, this amount of discoveries and the amount of people's interest, I think I can do this for a living. But I'm not looking, that's not one of the reasons behind it. So it's definitely not like Gaia. It's not like we're gonna make money off it first, and then we'll tell you all the facts about it later. Right now, I you know how easy I can find facts, and the only facts I got were in non-answers,
There you go.
and but that's what it is, the truth, and just doing what you love.
That's what I'm doing right now, and that's what you're doing right now. So, Jeffrey, where can everyone go to learn more about you, and about the Independent Research Society, and just being able to talk to you, man? Because
Yeah,
It's so great to talk to you, man, because you're like, I'll let you know whatever you want to know. And I think it's,
truth,
I think you're great that way. So,
well,
please let
that's
everyone
why
know
I
where they can
built
find
the
you.
live data stream, because it's like 24 hours a day. So I built a data stream that's on right now. And, you know, we drop the show links in there, but it's a 24-hour nonstop chat. There's always somebody in there. World now. And I'm easy to find. Just come to the Independent Research Society on Facebook, facebook.com/groups, but just search Independent Research Society. Mine's Jeff Boyd Jr. because there's like it's out there. I found out, and fine. And so, if you ever want to come talk about anything, come join the society. Because if you're listening, then you're looking for the same things we are, or I am. So come talk to us anytime. He's always in there with me every day too, so he'll be there.
There's a lot of people in
it's
there.
It's like a nonstop. We have this nonstop thing going on now. Off work in a little while. We'll talk about it then.
I know. Well, sometimes at work, you know, but no, it's all good, and it's what we need to do, man.
I think it's important what we're doing, and I do. I think
it really is
the most important thing in the world, because there's been another world pulled over everyone's eyes. The truth is, that's the duality of man. Half of us, most of them, are not paying attention. Amount don't care, but then you have some who really do want to know the answers. Found out that you know, now I'm happy doing this. The most pissed off people in the world are the flat earthers. The cognitive dissonance runs deep. They're pissed off if you shake up their world. Yeah, they don't want to know about Planet X. They don't want to know about Point Doom. They don't want to know about the ancient Sumerians, because if you shoot up a rocket, you're going to stop when you hit the tarp. So
I heard that.
That's what it is. Do what you love, and come find me on there, and anything you want to know. Because there are the more powerful it gets. It's growing.
One more time for the Google Plus people out there, the ones that don't have Facebook. Where are you located under?
You can email me, Jeff Boyd Jr. at Gmail, plus Jeff Boyd Jr. at Gmail, and on Google Plus. And in Google now, I've never even Googled myself to the other day. Now I was like, if you want to hear the other shows I've done everything from electrolysis, showing it was a power station, to what we've talked about tonight, and everything in between. We did a show for Standing Rock, and trying to actually come up with solutions to our power problems. There within like 3 shows, and worked out a viable option we could switch to right now. Because a lot of people don't realize that if we have a Carrington event right now, we got 400 Fukushimas going off at once.
Another topic.
Power across the planet. Yeah, if we lose power right now, that would kill us. And people to know the truth, because they need to know that there are some things like that need some attention right now. We'll have a lot more than telegraph wires fried. If we have a Carrington event, we're talking extinction level event right now. But it's a very different thing than what's on TV.
That's right. Doomsday preppers ain't going to help you with that. Anyways, why don't we go ahead and we'll go ahead and end it, man. Again, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate your friendship and your research and knowledge, Jeff. It's just been amazing, and we're all trying to do the same thing. You, me, Joe. It's just
love you guys,
dude. We love you back.
Anytime you want to do a show, that's why I said, hey, let's do it.
And we're in the talks of you probably doing your own, or a roundtable of all of us. Doing something like maybe twice a month or something like that. But anyways, man, let's go ahead and wrap it up. And I want to thank you again, brother, and we will talk soon.
All right, brother.
Thanks again, Jeff. All right. That was Jeffrey Boyd Jr. And man, what an amazing show tonight. That's nothing compared to what we talk about almost on a daily and nightly, sometimes nightly in the middle of the night basis, man. It's just the information comes in like all the time. I really appreciate you guys being here. If you missed the show, just go ahead and wait about 5 minutes and refresh, and it'll start over again. It's it's on here on Beyond the Strange YouTube channel. Tell your friends about it. I'm going to do more of these shows like this. I think it's a great outlet. And I thank everyone who follows. If you follow, please subscribe and set your alerts. Again, this show was not planned. I just did it out of the blue, and I probably will do it again. So, put them on alerts, and tell a friend. And y'all have a good night. Have a good weekend. Have a great holiday. Get those burgers. Remember, this Independence Day is an important day. And just keep on fighting the good fight. So remember, don't be a stranger. Just be strange. And until then, we'll see you. This Sunday, there will be a show on Spreaker, by the way, and I will have a guest, and her name is Amalia Karras, and that will be at 5 p.m. Pacific. I just wanted to put that out there. So until then, we'll see y'all later. Catch you guys on the other side. Take care, and hasta. Don't forget, tonight's broadcast of Beyond the Strange is owned and copyrighted by Dave Cruz and cannot be simulcast, rebroadcasted, or copied without written consent of Beyond the Strange Radio. Also, the views and opinions are not necessarily that of Beyond the Strange. Hosts, guests, and affiliated networks, listeners are encouraged to conduct research and formulate their own opinions. Remember, everything that you heard and saw tonight is copyrighted and material of Beyond the Strange. So until then, once more, hasta.